Yo, what's going on out there? You are tuned in to REI Geek Swag U-Land. This is none other than TJ Hines, also known as REI Geek Swag on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, hey, take the necessary time to go ahead and follow me on IG. I'll follow you back. I'm dropping fruitful content that could definitely be useful for you and your business to get off and do your first deal, or even start doing consistent deals within the next 30 to 90 days. So what you want to make sure that you do here before we jump into today's topic, which is going to be a little juicy for you, is go ahead and click that subscribe bell button that you see just popped up on the screen. And of course, if you feel, only if you feel this video has added any value to you in some form or fashion, go ahead and like, comment, share it. REI, Geek Swag, it's your time to get a bag. As you just heard me say, today's topic is going to get a little juicy. This is just a follow-up in regards to what we spoke about a couple days back, which was the pros and cons of investing in metropolitan statistical areas, abbreviated MSAs. These are towns that rank in population size of 250,000 or more. And what we're going to do today is talk about investing in tertiary or secondary markets that rank in population size of maybe 10 to 20 up to 80,000 in population. I appreciate you for coming on back. You're a smart, wise person for doing so. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of investing in tertiary, secondary markets, which rank in population size of 10 to 20 to roughly 80 to 100,000. The very first pro is less competition. Okay, that's what most people think when they can't find any success in a primary market or a metropolitan market. They will think, well, just go into a smaller market, there's going to be less competition, and there's always a but and if to that. And we're going to talk about some of those cons here after we address all the pros. The second pro of investing in the tertiary / secondary market is cheaper housing values, which is another reason why most people, when they're starting out and they're finding some challenges in their primary markets that they're operating in, to have a lot of competition and rising housing values, they just think that it's impossible to get a deal there. So they'll go tertiary, smaller secondary markets to have cheaper housing values. And you got to ask yourself, does that really work in your favor? And we're going to talk about, again, some of the cons here shortly, but let's go ahead and make sure that we can get through all the pros. The third pro advantage is getting a quicker return on investment when you're in these tertiary, secondary markets. Why? Because you're paying a cheaper price to acquire the asset. So therefore, the initial capital that you put into the asset, you're going to be able to recoup that back much quicker than more than likely you would in a primary metropolitan market. The fourth pro, my friend, is sellers are willing to wheel and deal with you. I mean, it's less competition in the marketplace. They're more prone to take your offer that you put out to them on the spot, or if not, they will definitely get back with you. Why? Because they don't have many choices, many options. You're thinking about all the pros, but what happens here is when you go into these markets, you don't think about the cons. Okay, so my job is to give you both sides of the coin so that way you can make an analytical, educated decision whether you need to be spending your time in these secondary and tertiary markets, my friend. And the last pro that we're going to briefly discuss here, which is the fifth pro before we move on and list the cons, is stable cash flow. You're going to be able to get stable cash flow. You won't be able to command premium rents in these tertiary, secondary markets as you would in these metropolitan markets that are more thriving and more fruitful with jobs, but you will be able to get stable cash flow. These are all the pros that we just talked about. So what we're going to do is now shift gears a little bit here and now talk about all of the cons. Now it's my job to explain some of those cons to go along with those pros, right? So even though one of the pros is less competition, much easier to get the deal under contract, we got to think about liquidity, the exit strategy, right? We already know that many buyers are going to stay away, that actually have real money, okay, stay away from these type of markets and deploy them into much thriving areas, thriving markets, which are usually metropolitan markets. So your buyer pool is going to be very limited. Your buyer pool is only going to be local buyers in that town. And I tell you what, local buyers in that town, they don't buy properties every day. They buy properties once every year, maybe every 2 years. That's not enough business in order for you to create a long-term sustainable business in that market. So that's a con, okay? The second con that I want to list here when investing in tertiary and secondary markets, you want to make sure that that specific market is thriving with jobs. And usually in these smaller markets, there's only 1 to 2 employers. Now I need you to think about this. This is very serious. What if one of those employers decide that they want to pack up and then go elsewhere where incentives are given to them to now bring their operation there? And the people who are actually filling these units, right, to rent out, to live, for housing or whatever, guess what? They lose their jobs. How can they pay rent in these areas? So that's also, you need to think about in the times that we're currently in today, landlords do not want to be in markets that if a jobs essentially just go away in that one little town where there's 1 or 2 employers, then guess what, my friend? They may be lost out on their returns there. Okay. Even worse, they may even lose some of their initial investment. And so you need to start thinking like a buyer. That is the second con. The third con is the con that you need to take in some serious consideration, and that is you're limited with your exit strategies. Yes, it's less competition. Yes, it's easier to get a deal under contract, but exit strategies is what the end buyer is thinking about. So let me put you in a perspective as the buyer, because I'm a buyer myself. When I'm looking to acquire a deal, I want to have multiple options to exit out of it. I want to be able to have the opportunity to fix and flip it for retail value. That means I have to negotiate a price that's low enough to create a ton of equity for me to make the repairs and make a sustainable profit after. And I also want to have that option if I did not want to fix and flip it by having enough equity into the property and liquidating it right away, right? I also want to have the option to buy and hold it. Or I can creatively sell it on terms once I acquire the property. So, exit strategy. Your end buyer is thinking about once they acquire the property, before they even acquire it, they're thinking how I'm going to get my money back. And what if this situation pops up? Can I liquidate the property right away? So that's something that you really think about if you're planning to spend any of your valuable time inside of these tertiary, secondary markets. The fourth con, which is the last con here, is there's just not enough sales activity. That is an immediate red flag that you are in a market. Once you do get that deal under contract, even though it's going to be easier, the seller's going to will and deal with you because he doesn't have many people interested either, right? If you do take these properties down, it's best to take them down cash and then list them on the MLS, wait maybe 4, 5, 6 months to sell it, which would still be a decent return on your money, much more than you can get inside of any bank, right? But only if you had your cash to do so. But if you're looking to wholesale it, again, you have to think broad. What are investors thinking? What are buyers thinking? So my job is to put you in the buyer's shoes, so that way now you more so understand how to maneuver in the marketplace. So what we've done here over the past couple of days was listed the pros and cons of metropolitan statistical areas, investing in these markets. Today we discussed the pros and cons of investing in tertiary and secondary markets. My friend, all I ask for you is to do this for me. Like the video, put your comments down below. Hell, even share it if you have the balls to do so. If you've not done so already, make sure that you click the subscribe, the bell right above me. And guys, I want you to be notified of every piece of exclusive content that I have to bring to you. So hopefully this was fruitful for you. This is none other than TJ Hines at REI Geek Swag. Right here in REI Geek Swag U is where you currently are. I'll see you in a few days, my friend. We have nothing but exclusive content that we're going to be dropping specifically for you. We're out of here. Peace. REI.